to talk Zoom cooking and the future of the restaurant industry here in Chicago and nationwide. My good buddy Max Robbins is here with me. He is one of the chefs at Longman Eagle. He's the director of culinary operations for the great Land and Sea Group, and we'll talk about some of their awesome restaurants. I would say very nice quarantine beard, but that's pretty much always your beard. So I wish I could grow a beard like that, and because I can't, I actually shaved for the first time in like 9 months yesterday. I got a clean shave going.
You know, I think clean face is the future, Carmen. As we're starting to reopen these restaurants, I've been debating every day whether or not to shave the beard, because the mask plus the beard plus like 100 degrees of heat in the kitchen.
No way.
Yeah, it doesn't work really well, you know.
So, I mean, you guys are going to be cooking with masks on, correct?
You know, it's a really interesting time because it's difficult. It's really hard. And I don't want to dismiss the great doctors and nurses and people in factories have been doing this for a really long time, but introducing these masks into situations, into, 100-degree kitchens where you're moving, you're breathing, athletes use higher oxygen quality to train. And we're asking what's essentially an athlete in the kitchen, somebody who's moving and active for 8 hours at a time, to work with lower oxygen quality. So for us, I think it's going to be a difficult transition, but our number one concern has to be the health and safety of our guests. So yeah, I think that's the future. So if you know somebody who works with like ultra thin material, that there's a lot of money to be made, I think. If there's an Under Armour for kitchen masks.
Right, exactly. Like the wicking material, so it kind of dries quickly for you guys. Yeah. It's very well, that's a good point.
Yeah, gloves. I mean, I think that, there's a lot of, and it's, I think, a scary thing for restaurants because, people worry about turtles, which is great, and plastic straws in their noses. So restaurants have to spend more on paper straws. People worry about biodegradable, which is great. So restaurants have to spend more money on, a biodegradable to-go equipment. That's great. And now another thing happens, and restaurants are going to have to spend a lot more money on sanitation practices, on to-go ware, on new trainings, on new procedures, on legal advice, on counsel. And that's great. But on already thin margins, now with decreased operating, if you have a favorite restaurant in the community, support them, buy gift cards, order to go. They really need your help more than ever if you want to continue to see them around. And it's not just now, it's in a year from now when everyone is mortgaging their houses. They're kind of going all in right now. Just because you don't see a restaurant close today or next week doesn't mean that they're not hurting and they won't be hurting.
Yeah, like the scary thing is to think about how many might not be able to reopen, how many small, just sort of family. I mean, so Max works for one of the biggest, most successful restaurant groups in the city of Chicago. You guys have Longman Eagle. You've got all those great restaurants at the Chicago Athletic Association, like Cherry Circle Room and Milk Room, Drawing Room, a Game Room. I mean, like these places that have exploded. They're wildly successful. They're great hangouts, Parsons Chicken, and a whole bunch more. So you guys are this huge, thriving restaurant group, but you've got all these employees then. So like what, I guess from just the standpoint of what's going on specifically with you guys, are any of the restaurants open for delivery pickup? Can people still support the group? And what's happening with all these employees as you guys try to communicate through these, these last 2 months, and God only knows how many more going forward?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll get away from any kind of, political thought on the thing, but I think that the number one thing is just the people. The restaurants have so many people from so many different backgrounds, and a lot of those people are not eligible or do not socially, politically have understanding and knowledge and support of how to get aid right now. So I think that's the scariest thing for us. So for Parsons, for Lonesome Rose, and for Longman Eagle, we have started reopening for takeout. The hotel will not be for a little while because of the larger capacity and the gathering laws. But we are returning right now maybe 5% of our workforce, maybe 10% of our workforce. So it's two things that are really scary. One, unless we can open for more capacity, we can't return these jobs. And a lot of those people are undocumented workers, or people who are underemployed, who, have come from different socioeconomic backgrounds than a lot of our listeners and a lot of people who are in our personal circles. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then in order for us to be able to use a lot of those PPP funds. We definitely need to return more workers than we are able to right now. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. We want to get everyone back, but we need to be able to operate in a new business model in a way that makes money. And we're fortunate because Parsons, Longman Eagle, people like are craving those foods. What really scares me is, how many taquerias are on just the strip that I live on. And a lot of those depend on people going to work every day and the foot traffic. So, as much as I worry for our own restaurant group, I think that we're resilient, we're caring. We have owners who are willing to go kind of all in and bet the farm on the businesses that they've created. But there are so many local restaurants that just, I don't know how they can survive. I don't know how concert venues can wait for two years to reopen. I don't know how they can do it.
I don't know either. That's a good point. And, you've cooked at so many different places in Chicago, like the business, I would think like it's huge. I mean, I heard a stat that outside of the federal government, the restaurant industry in this country is like the second biggest employer. It's like 1 out of every 20 Americans works for the restaurant industry. It's incredible. It's over 16 million people. But in a way, it also kind of seems small where you guys are this tight-knit group. You hang out together late nights, like right after your shifts. You kind of move around. It seems transient. It's like coaching. Like you bounce around, you cook in a lot of places. So all the friends you've made, the people that just locally, is everybody sort of fearful of the same things? Like, what do your chef friends say about the future and how they're doing?
Well, I think you nailed it. It's a lot like coaching trees, right? Like, if you look at the best coaches in the NFL, they kind of all came from that Belichick, Sean Payton coaching tree. It's the same thing in Chicago. You've got Paul Kahn, Rick Bayless. You got a lot of these big chefs. There's a Boca Restaurant Group, One-Off Hospitality, and then from there, I think that everyone's handling it differently. And that was one thing that I struggled with was like, should I be studying every day? Should I be researching? Should I be cooking every day? Should I be doing YouTube channels? Should I be working to get better every day? But it's like, for what? For tomorrow? Like for next year? Like when are we going to be able to apply these things? And then understanding, I think, yourself and your own process was really key here, because it's very easy for people to go down that kind of dark hole, feel bad for themselves, woe is me. And not knowing an end date, I think, was the hardest thing. I think chefs are dealing with it differently. There's a lot of kind of good that's emerging. There's these new hospitality coalitions that are emerging because most cooking jobs are non-unionized. Yeah. So connecting people and maybe saying, okay, well, can we work for better practices, better standards, if and when we can resume? I think that would be a wonderful thing to come from this. But I think that most chefs are really doing everything they can to, one, enjoy time with their family, one, appreciate what they've had, connect with each other, connect the community, but just do anything they can to save the business. So you've got a lot of places like Fat Rice, also Hot Chocolate, that are kind of changing more toward, bakery or takeout, changing their models. You've got a lot of restaurants that we need to still have a very big to-go business, which we weren't able to do with the style of food before. The one thing that I would say, though, Carmen, and I know, we talk a lot about food. I know you're a fan of how diverse the restaurants are in Chicago. Yeah. The one thing I would say to any chef or to any restaurant right now is just cook your food. So if you're kind of popping up or dressing up as a Korean restaurant, then people aren't ordering from a Korean restaurant. If you're kind of doing, here's our Mexican food, our enchiladas, our take on tacos, and people aren't ordering from that Mexican restaurant. And a lot of those minority-owned businesses don't understand, don't know, aren't able to access these government funds and aids as much as, kind of your popular chef-driven restaurant. You gotta do you. You can't take away from other people right now.
So, like, I mean, you kind of hit on this a little. You started going down this road. Like, when you think about what should you be doing in this time as a professional chef when you can't be in the kitchen as much, and I mean, yeah, do you start coming up with new things? Do you practice anything? Are you just cooking the hell out of stuff for for you guys at home? Which is, it's got to be pretty nice to be quarantined. I'd say if there's one bright spot, I wish I was quarantined with a chef. I like to pretend to be a chef, and I cook okay, but I wish I was quarantined with you maybe sometimes. I mean, what like have the mini?
But my fiance feels like a fucking genius.
I'm sure.
Good. But
Have
it's
the
different
dinners
though. I
been
mean, like we
tasty?
make good food at home, but the access to ingredients, and like in the first week, I was like, wow, I miss the olive oil that I work with, the salt that I work with. Pardon me, the products in the grocery store are just like different. Like I miss like a beautiful piece of fish, like simply grilled with like lemon, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to Mariano's and I'm getting like the same salmon every day, the same chicken every day. It was different, you know. It was difficult for me. You know, I started to pour over cookbooks and look at YouTube and pull out all the old recipes that I used to have and like look back at kind of a retrospective the different dishes I cooked and made it, whether it was purple pig or for hog salt or for Soho House and different spots in my career. But then, you know, week 2, week 3 got here and I was like, well, I'm writing all these recipes for spring, but will we be back by spring? And then we wouldn't. And then now it's like, well, for summer, but will we be back for summer? And that then kind of really can be stifling, I think, for a lot of people. And then, you know, here's the dishes that we want to do, but will business allow us to cook that style? So I think for me, it's been a challenge. I've really tried to cook at home a lot of those comfort dishes that I've really enjoyed. Cooked a lot of like Italian American, like red sauce kind of food. Cooked a lot of Jewish and Israeli food. We've got a couple of chef friends in the neighborhood, so we've been doing a food swap
Yeah.
with them. That's kind of kept us sane. We've been cooking for some neighbors, and that's kept us sane. But yeah, man, it's a total challenge. We're lucky. We just finished a renovation on a house, so I've got this, you know, kitchen that I really enjoy cooking in. But it's totally different. You know, I say it's like if you took a sprinter and said you can't run, you know, 100 meters anymore, you have to run a marathon. You're a marathon runner now. Like, yeah, they're both runners. Yeah, like, you know, you're cooking at home or you're cooking in a restaurant. They're both cooking, but like, you know, chefs specialize in catering or in Italian food or in Israeli food or in short order and fine dining, like home chef, like it's just different, you know, like the passion, everything, it's just different, you know. You know what I'm saying? It's like if they put you on radio or on a sports beat, like, yeah, it's broadcasting, but you know, you do what you love.
But you don't, I mean, I would imagine that like for you guys, you feel satiated probably like when you're in there and you're creating magic that people come in, sit down and love. Like we go crazy for your food and like that's the rush, right? I mean, that's why you do it. And you know, no matter how good it is at home for you and your fiance, it's like I would think that you guys sort of miss that, like where people come in, sit down and they have a great meal and they go, man, this is why I love coming here.
And I've been spoiled because I really did most of my line cooking and like became a chef in this kind of open kitchen era where people were cooking in front of crowds. Yeah. And I grew up loving to play to a crowd. I mean, I grew up playing sports. I grew up really competitive. And that kind of like being that show was something that I think, you know, we really enjoyed. And now, you know, so I've been at Longman every day and we're cooking. We're doing pretty good business, you know, and people are responding really well and people will write really nice notes on caviar, but it's an empty house. And I know I can relate to what LeBron was saying of like not wanting to play if you're not in front of fans because you're like getting your ass kicked. And then, you know, you go through a little wave, and then you look up and you just want to feed off that energy that's in the dining room. And there's nothing. And it's so bizarre. You know, we're fortunate. I'm not complaining. We're fortunate to have the opportunity to do it and to have the support to do it, but it is a different experience.
Yeah. How big's your recipe book then, by the way? I mean, like, is it, you know, just stuff you've accumulated over the years? Do you still add to it a lot? Like, what's a professional chef's recipe book look like?
Everyone's different. I mean, I'm meticulous with recipes. So I'm like to every gram on everything. Like, we don't take any risks. We're about like creating something special. And if you come back again, you're going to get it the exact same way. So I save from starting at, I worked at this restaurant, Telegraph, as a cook with actually the chef, Johnny, who's the chef at Cherry Circle Room, was the chef at Telegraph. And we all knew each other from Avec, Blackbird, the kind of one-off days. So I started saving menus from there and recipes that I developed from there, and then from there into Purple Pig, and then for Hog Salt, not as much, and then Soho House, but just at Longman and Eagle, I'd say we've developed in 2 years, we probably have 200, 250 different recipes,
Wow.
maybe 300 if you include like sub recipes. I've got a binder maybe about this big of all the old menus and like doodles and ideas, and yeah, it's cool.
How long, so like how long does it take, like how many cooks, and I mean, you know, times that you prepare that special or that thing that you're working on, like how many times does it take to really get it right? I mean, maybe every once in a while it's boom, the first try, but does it take a couple of runs to like get it exactly how you want it?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes never. You know, there is stuff that I worked on for months, years ago, that I'll be in a situation now and I'll be like, oh, wait, this didn't work out, but it's perfect here. So we at Longman, like our rule is unless it's perfect, we don't do it. Like unless everyone who's sitting around is like chuckling when they're eating it, we're not going to go with good enough. So we don't put timetables on how long things take. You know, we're very meticulous about it. I think it's something I learned working with Brendan Sodakoff at Hog Salt was the hardest thing to do is make good bread or make French fries and ketchup. You know, so instead of worrying about, you know, all the crazy things you're going to do to it, what we do is we start our dishes by saying, okay, we want to make a broccoli dish. So we buy broccoli from, you know, 3, 4, 5 different places. And then we cook each place 3, 4, 5 different ways. And then when we eat away or a place and we say, whoa, like this is really cool, then organically we say, okay, well, what does it remind us of? What is it asking for? We don't start with that kind of square peg round hole. Yeah. And I would say to every home cook out there, this is a great time because you can try a recipe more.
Little hiccup in the audio.
Videos, like don't wing it, pay attention to details. And like try it more than once. You're not going to be a master at it the first time. I mean, it takes us professionally like hundreds of times to be able to say like, I'm great at this, you know? It's challenging.
Do you watch, like, I mean, I always ask this question when we talk to comedians, like how much do you actually watch another comedian? I mean, do you go on, I'm always on YouTube watching, you know, Marco Pierre White or Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. Like, do you ever do that? Or is it, I mean, you don't really have to? Like, what is that like for a professional chef?
No, totally. I mean, I love it. I love cooking. Like I do what I love. I love sports. I love movies. I love, you know, family, but like I love cooking, and I'm screwed if restaurants don't come back because this is the only thing I can do. Like, it's the only thing in life that I've ever, you can ask my parents, you ask my friends, like, I was trouble man before I found this thing. So, you know, for me, I love cooking. Like, I can consume it a lot. So I can come home, I can read cookbooks, and I think that's great. Like, the number one thing that chefs do is read cookbooks and professional. There's professional cookbooks, and then there's for home cooks. So there's so many great professional references, and a lot of chefs in our city have out really great cookbooks, and I'll read those. I like to watch the Food Network. I think it's fun. I think consuming food at all levels of content is really fun. I like to look at YouTube videos. I just got into Instagram maybe about 6 months ago. So I think watching chefs and what they put out is really great. There's a ton that I follow. You know, we go into restaurants, we talk, you know, we listen. I'll call chefs and say, hey, you know, what is going on here? What do you hear here? You know, me and my chefs will kind of shoot back pictures that we like back and forth from Instagram and say, okay, that's cool, but have you seen this? So, I mean, always. And for me, like, it's important too when I'm creating a recipe, like, you know, if let's say, okay, Longman, we've got a duck fat mayonnaise on our burger. I think it's a really cool idea, duck fat mayo. But I want to know, has anyone done it in the city? I don't think that I'm inventing like the light bulb here. Yeah. But we want to be unique. So, okay, I think I want to put, you know, octopus with XO sauce. Google it real quick. Does anybody do it? Okay, I'm not seeing it on anyone else's menu. Like, let's go forward with it. I think you got to know what other people are doing. You got to stay up on other people's food for sure.
Yeah. Duck fat mayo sounds good to me.
Last night, you saw Jordan invited everybody, not comparing myself in any way to Michael Jordan, not even to Jeffrey or Marcus Jordan, okay? But, you know, Jordan invited everybody to that camp in LA, right? So that he could see over the summer what everyone else was doing. He wanted to know where everyone else was at. So he knew how far he had to go, you know?
Starts taking notes, on everybody's which way they like to dribble, all that.
Which
So,
I gotta say real quick, Carm, that Last Dance thing, man, I've never seen a show where every episode you're like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And then you watch the next episode, you're like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
It's been great. Like the production value of it has been fabulous.
Unreal.
Trip down memory lane has been fun. It's given us something extra, which is good.
Yeah.
When you guys are allowed to reopen again for dinner service at the restaurant, not just the takeout, what do you think? What do you hear about what the restaurant's going to look like and how many people might be able to be in there?
So I'm no expert, and I think that that's what's scary about coronavirus in general, right? It's like you talk to one person, you watch one news channel, they're like, okay, you have to wear masks. And they're like, no, wearing masks is bad. And then, it changes so much. So from what I'm hearing right now, what I'm seeing under Governor Pritzker's new plan, which for me and a lot of, restaurant owners or chefs or workers is very discouraging, is that we are not going to be able to open until it's looking like June 26th at the earliest. And don't get me wrong, I think stay at home, stay quarantined, keep people safe is great. I'm not seeing my parents, like we're staying away from elderly family. But what's hard for us is, okay, salons, you can reopen where you touch people.
Yeah.
Businesses, you can fit people. Like you can't pick and choose who stays open. But either way, we can't open till then. A lot of our restaurants are in good shape because we have outdoor patio spaces. So for Longman, it's scary because, we're used to being, 60, 80 seat restaurant when we have all of our patios, we've got our OSB, and now we're looking at being a 26 seat restaurant. Wow. And you're talking about restaurants that already the margins are that thin. If you were one business, you were to ask a friend, hey, a friend would say, hey, I'm going to open up, and you're like, don't do it. People don't make money. It's a restaurant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're taking an industry that people are already scared to venture in, that already has a low success rate. But so masks, personal protective equipment, we're looking at hand sanitizing stations. We're looking at social distancing. We're already started looking at restaurants in Taiwan and Hong Kong and seeing how they're doing it. Restaurants around the country we're kind of paying attention to. We've got like Ecolab and the National Restaurant and Illinois Restaurant Association, which are putting out guidelines. But all of those are changing when, the governor says you guys can't open for all these months. So we hope to be able to open in summer months. We'll try to expand our patio seating. Hopefully the city of Chicago will be more lax with permitting. We're looking at, bars. I think our bar at Longman, which, people, come from around the world to go to. We're looking at 8 seats in our front bar. And a lot of that is the interaction with the bartender because of our whiskey program. Yep. So for guest experience, that'll be interesting. Music, vibe, we're trying to find ways to make our room feel good because, our front room at Longman, I'm sure a lot of our, people who might be watching this are familiar with, we're talking about 4 seats, 4 tables in that front room. So, we're going to try our best. And as far as food, we're not going to say, everything we've done, this is how we're doing it. We're not going to dictate like we've been able to successfully in the past, but here's our style. We're going to wait to see what people are interested in. I think right now people are really into takeout comfort food. I think when restaurants reopen, we'll see a big push against for, more fine dining or elevated food because people will miss that experience that they couldn't get at home. Oysters, kind of more intricate, fun things. Because I think fine dining has been dying a little bit in the past years. So I say it all to say, like, we're just going to try our best. We're going to try to have fun. We're going to be safe.
Are you guys worried that people are going to be fearful to go out for a little while?
Yeah. I'm scared, I guess, to go back to work. So I stayed in my house for 2.5 months. And when I went into my house, there was no treatment, no cure, no understanding of the virus, and no testing. And now there's no treatment, no cure, no understanding of the virus, and very difficult to access testing. So I don't know what's changed in 2.5 months to say that I'm not without reservation about leaving the house again for the safety of myself, my family, my loved ones. So I would understand if diners were, but all I can say is that if we're going to be asked to go back to work, I do then also want to enjoy life and support local businesses and support communities because, I live in Chicago. I love Chicago. I want it to be Chicago when this hopefully is all over. And I don't know. I don't know another way to do it. So, it seemed like, especially, we're the #1 summer city in the world. I think once the sun comes out, I think some of this, what's scaring people, I think a lot of people are they're going to want summer,
Yeah. So Longman is open for carryout. Any other in the group that you commit? Like you said, with everything at the Chicago Athletic Association, you got the big venue, the hotel, so that's probably going to be a slower rollout. But Longman's doing takeout. Any of the other places in the group?
Yeah, so Longman is doing takeout. Right now we're open up 5 days a week from 4 to 9. We're seeing it's crazy. Like all the orders at all of our restaurants come in between like 6 and 7 o'clock. It's just like a huge dinner push, and then you're done. We got Parsons in Lincoln Park and in Logan Square that's also open. The hours and the days are different at both locations. So check on Caviar, check on their websites, follow them on Instagram. We've got Lonesome Rose offering a little more reduced, so kind of just tacos and burritos, not as many of the plates. So I think that's great. It's kind of like our fun borderland, like Texas style taco place. So that's great. It's also in Logan Square. And then, the Chicago Athletic is not. We've got Chef Fred, who is awesome. You guys should follow him on Instagram from Lost Lake. He's doing some personal to-go business. A lot of chefs on their Instagram are doing personal to-go business, and a lot of cooks are. You think about how many people are displaced, Carmen. Think about a stadium. How many stadium workers or beer vendors or people, truck drivers. I mean, every place has decreased routes. The people who are working for sanitation, for cleaning, for chemical companies, a lot of these people have side hustles. So, anyone involved in restaurants, a lot of these people are selling items online, and this looks like there's really cool food going on. So try to support that as much as we can do.
You binge watching anything on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you because I like you. I don't know if I want to admit this, but I have been on these dating shows, Too Hot to Handle, the Circle, Love is Blind, 90 Day Fiance. I cannot get enough, and I think it's because life is pretty boring right now. So watching these and Kardashian, these trashy reality TV with these people with problems, unbelievable stuff is putting everything in perspective. I'm worried that I've lost my job and we don't know how we're gonna pay our mortgage, and my dad's in Florida and I don't know if I can get to him, and my fiance's brother-in-law's mom is been on a ventilator for corona, but Jessica is worried that she's 36 and the guy that she blindly got matched with on a dating show to spend the rest of her life is only 26.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time problems.
Yeah, not that bad. We've been watching a lot of old movies too. I mean, we've revisited a lot of classic movies that we kind of missed. And I know you guys have your 5-year rule where you're allowed to spoil the end of movies. So luckily these have been fresh to us. We want to catch it before people start,
Start ruining the movies.
Yeah.
You try to keep it to 10. I don't know. I feel like 5 maybe is not quite long enough, but 10, you're probably, that's it. That's the cutoff. If we're going to talk about it on the air, if it's 10 years old, we're going to ruin the ending. It's as simple as that. So you didn't watch those shows before? You just sort of got into them now it's like you weren't watching Kardashians 6 months ago.
I couldn't keep up with week to week to week. My schedule changed so much. I mean, I'd be at work sometimes from 9 a.m. till 10, 11 p.m. Sometimes it would be in the morning. Sometimes it would be at night. So for me, my routine was I'd come home, spend a little time with the family, maybe eat a little dinner. And I was a movie guy because I could put 2 hours into a movie and be done with it and feel accomplished. So keeping up with TV at all week to week was not something I can do. So now that I completed Netflix, so that's cool. That's done.
Watching everything on Netflix.
Yeah. But so I've been kind of integrating TV into that a little bit now. It was never something I did before, and with no sports,
I know, it's crazy. You're a sports junkie, I know. So I'm gonna pick up from Longman one night. What's the one thing I should get for sure?
So right now we're having a little fun. You know, we cook Midwestern food, and we wanted to shift our menu a little bit more toward comfort food. So we're doing like Wisconsin tavern style. So we've got our fish fry, we've got like a smothered pork chop, we've got our burger and our chicken sandwich. We're doing like a chopped salad. I'm calling it the Sortillos because it's kind of like in the Portillo's style. Yeah, so we're doing that, and it'll change week to week. What we're really trying to do is listen to. It's hard because we can't work with as many local farmers, but if we've got a farmer who's got something on special, you know, needs to get rid of something, we're going to try to integrate that. We're going to listen to week to week. We're thinking about doing maybe like chili cheese fries next week. I mean, it's all good. I mean, the menu's like 6 things, so just go for it all.
Yeah.
We've got some of our really cool bourbons on there. We are in talks. I think we might put some Lot B on there. So if anyone wants to splurge, we've got our slushies. We're doing like, 'cause you can't sell prepackaged beverages, right? Because the city of Chicago is more worried about, I don't know, than supporting, you know, these businesses who sell mixed drinks and cocktails. So we're selling Coke slushies and mini bar bottles. So you can make it home, Bloody Mary mix.
Yeah. So you can't pre-make the cocktail and then just like have them carried out. You have to do it. You have to like give them all the components.
No, you can't. You can't do it. But you know, President Trump is saying that we don't need FDA. You don't need USDA inspectors anymore in pork processing plants, and that's going to go great. But we can't mix the cocktails that we've been mixing for, you know, years and years and years and screw a top on and sell it.
Go figure.
I mean, yeah, that's my biggest thing is we got to stop picking and choosing and playing God and saying, you can do this, you can't do this. You know, you can open, you can't open. Everyone has to be in this together.
Yeah.
We have to say, you know, we're all in this or we're all at home. You know, I'm hearing a lot of people saying like, well, I'm over it or I'm bored of it or just, I'm just going to do, we can't do that. Yeah. Nothing's really changed. You got to stick with it. You got to keep people safe. You got to look out for each other because if we are continuing to go out and we're spreading the virus or we're getting ourselves at risk of the virus, we're never going to give these businesses a chance to get open because the numbers are going to keep climbing. So, you know, care about each other and stay home.
Yeah. Order from your local restaurants. Order from Longman. Max is great. The food, Longman's one of my all-time favorite places. So, we used to live down the street from Longman Eagle. So it might be the place I miss most down here in the city, considering the proximity and how much we used to be there. Max, you're the best. Stay strong. Support your local restaurants. Max Robbins from Longman and from the Land and Sea Group. And I'll see you soon, brother. All right.
Thanks, Carmen. Good to talk.